Mayor Peter Cruz, and we are delighted that you are able to take time from your busy schedules to be with us. We look forward to hearing from you later on in the program. We want to also recognize other elected officials and other candidates for public office who are here as well. We want to thank our luncheon sponsors, Intermountain Healthcare, Utah Educational Savings Plan, and Zions Bank. We want to especially thank Zions Bank for providing this wonderful founders room. Take a look at the view behind you. It is great and magnificent, so thank you very much. I know that there are probably a few guests here that probably aren't sure what the Utah Foundation is or does. And I'd like to, for just a couple of minutes, share with you their mission statement. The mission of Utah Foundation is to promote a thriving economy, a well-prepared workforce, and a high quality of life for Utahns by performing thorough, well-supported research that helps policymakers, business and community leaders, and citizens better understand complex issues and providing practical, well-reasoned recommendations for policy change. So I hope you got all of that. One of the major initiatives of the Utah Foundation is this Utah Priorities Project for 2010 that you're going to hear more of today. Thank you so much for your generous contributions to this project and others, and allows these projects to happen. Please go ahead and start your lunch. It will now be my pleasure to turn the time over to Steve Cruz, President of the Utah Foundation, to talk about this project and also introduce the speakers.
This is kind of a test run, so okay.
Thank you, Larry. Larry is the treasurer of the Utah Foundation Board of Trustees, and we appreciate your work, Larry. We are grateful to have Mayor Cruz, Governor Hebert here in your first joint appearance, dueling speeches, if you will. And feel free to let everybody know why you think you're the candidate who should be elected governor. That's how we want to kick off this election season of the Utah Priorities Project. I'll have more to explain about the Utah Priorities Project when I get up after both of our candidates speak, and we'll describe the top 10 issues and some nuances about the issues from our Van Jones survey of voters. So for right now, I want to introduce Governor Gary Hebert, and then he will speak for 20 minutes, and then I will introduce Mayor Peter Cruz, and he'll have 20 minutes to speak as well. So, Governor Gary Richard Hebert is Utah's 17th governor. Prior to becoming governor, he served as lieutenant governor under Governor John Huntsman for nearly 5 years before taking the oath of office last August when Governor Huntsman left to become the ambassador to China. Governor Hebert was born in American Fork, raised in Orem, married Jeanette Snelson, and served as a young man with the Utah National Guard, served for 6 years as a staff sergeant. After his military service, began a career in the real estate industry, founded Hebert and Associates Realtors in Orem. He and his wife also began a child care service, the Kids Connection, which they operated for 23 years. He was appointed and then elected to the Utah County Commission and served for 14 years as a county commissioner. During that time, served as president of the Utah Association of Counties and the Utah Association of Realtors, and a board member of the Provo-Orem Chamber and the Utah Water Conservancy District. He currently sits on the National Governors Association Health and Human Services Standing Committee, the Healthcare Reform Task Force, and a newly created Homeland Security Special Committee. In his inaugural address, Governor Hebert outlined his 3 main priorities: economic development, public and higher education, and energy development. Governor and Mrs. Hebert are the proud grandparents of 10 grandchildren. They have 6 children. We are grateful to have you here to speak to us, Governor, and we look forward to hearing about your priorities and your thoughts on the priorities that came out of our survey. Governor.
Thank you, Steve. I'm honored to be here with all of you. Good to be here with my good friend Peter Cruz, and I know we're going to have an exciting and robust campaign, and I'm looking forward to it, and I think all the people of Utah are looking forward to it. So let me just thank you all for being here today. We're going to ask you to multitask. You need to eat and listen. And we appreciate that you're taking time to come and listen to Mayor Cruz and myself. Let me just start off by saying congratulations to the Utah Foundation. This is 65 years they've been involved in this and providing good research and data for elected officials, business community leaders, others, politicians, as we address issues of importance to all of us. I've worked with Steve over many years now. In fact, helped raise some money to help keep the foundation going. And for those of you who are sponsors, we appreciate your work here. I think as we look at your mission statement here, it says to promote a thriving economy, a well-prepared workforce, and a high quality of life for Utahns. That really is my platform. That's what we're about. That's what we're trying to do here in the state of Utah. And in fact, not only are talking about it, but we are doing it. And the research information we get from the Utah Foundation helps us understand the data and make sure that we develop policies that are effective, the outcomes of what we want to have. That's really what policy is about. Do we, in fact, as we implement policy, do we get the right outcome?
Oh, yeah, go
We're
ahead.
all to share the same goals. The priorities of Utah, the priorities of all of us here. This list here that we have is the priorities that we have. And the question is, how do we get there? What is the process to get that kind of an outcome? That's the differences in politicians. That's the difference in parties, in platforms. I'm pleased to state to you that my priorities do align with what we see here. I've been involved in virtually all of these issues in one way or another throughout all of my political life and my business life. And if you'll harken back just about 7 months ago to my inaugural address, as I took over this responsibility, you'll find that I mentioned a number of these priorities. My number one priority was grow the economy, job expansion, create jobs. Along with that, I talked about education. We needed, in fact, raise the bar, do what we could with education. If we're going to have long-term sustained economic growth, education and the opportunities to develop those skills to compete in the marketplace are a critical part of that. I talked about, in fact, energy. Utah is uniquely poised and positioned. In fact, we're blessed with energy opportunity in the state. And we need to make sure that we, in fact, develop those opportunities in the areas possible. And I talked about that we are, in fact, creating a 10-year plan for energy development in the state of Utah. We also talked about the fact that we need to be fiscally prudent in all of this. It's one thing to say, here's the benefit, but we also need to ascertain the cost for the benefit. And sometimes, as we see in Washington, that's a component part that's not ever factored into. We have the benefit, we have the desire, we want to have this to happen, but we don't think about, can we afford it? And can we afford it this year, or can we afford it next year? So fiscal responsibility is a key plank on my platform. And the last thing I'll mention that I mentioned in my inaugural address is you need to be an effective voice on Utah's issues. Whatever the issues are, and they change, as other issues come to the forefront because of different circumstances that take place. But can you and should you be an effective voice for Utah critical issues? I'm pleased to go back and review those with you and talk about, as we look at fiscal responsibility, fiscal restraint, and the issues that help us to grow the economy, I'm pleased just to look back at the legislative session we just completed. Everything that I do in this administration is look through the prism of economic growth. Every policy we discuss and decide about, we've got to look at how does it impact the economy. Does it improve the economy? Does it hinder the economy? And I believe that if we get the economy right, everything else will fall into place. Pick your pet issue. It could be health and human services, roads, transportation, infrastructure. We've got to make sure that we look at the economy and get it going right. This legislative session comes the most difficult in the history of the state. Norm Banger had a difficult time in the 80s. He said, Gary, I wouldn't trade places with you for love or money compared to what we had in the 80s. So we face a revenue shortfall of $1 billion. That's 1,000 million, with a gap of about $700 million. And the results are, in this legislative session, that we've been able to hold the line on education funding. We've been able to, in fact, maintain government services at the levels that we've had heretofore, doing more with less. And we've been able to do it without impacting the economy by having some kind of significant tax increase. Now, as you think about going back to the beginning of the session, income tax increases were on the table, sales tax increases, gasoline tax increases, We've ended up having to, in fact, negotiate a settlement on a tobacco tax, which has minimal impact on the economy. It still is the economy what I wanted to see happen. But we did that in order to keep the budget and hold the line on education.